thing that happens sometimes with these the CV carburetors or constant velocity carburetors is that the slide here sticks in the body. And that happens because between the carb castings, sometimes there's some manufacturing variances, sometimes within the slide chamber here there's a nick or a high point. And so what I like to do before I put the slides in permanently is I'll take the slide and just drop it in the chamber like that. And the slide should be able to move nice and free just like that. If you're dropping it in and it's hanging up, that means there's a problem. You got to find out why it's hanging up. Sometimes with two different carburetors you can swap the slides between the carburetors and it fixes the problem. Sometimes you got to find a different slide. Sometimes you have to just take a little bit of sandpaper, roll lightly in here and sand it. But that's something you should definitely check, because I've seen more than my handful of carbs that it doesn't do that. It goes this way and it stops and it gets stuck. Sometimes there's just goo on here that hasn't been cleaned off, so make sure you clean the slide really well and that it drops just like that. Alright, so that feels good. I'm going to go ahead and reassemble our main needle here. It's our jet needle. And I'm going to take it and drop it into the top of the slide. No, not like that. They come out the middle hole there. Should get the drop right in it. Come on. Alright, just like that. And there's my top screw. Get him in there. Come on. I'd actually use a pair of needle nose pliers to get him in. You guys can see that. It's hard to do this on the backside. Okay, I'm going with the screwdriver and throw it on down. It's snug, so now our needle is on the slide. Okay, I'll take my slide, I'm going to put it aside for a minute. Go back to the carburetor body here. Pull out a couple things. So there's a groove here. The slide has the diaphragm has a little bit of a lip on it that drops in this groove. It also has this notch here. You can see this little notch here that lines up there. So that's your alignment notch. If you have replaced the diaphragms on your carburetor and you don't have this notch anymore like the factory one does, you see these two holes here in the slide? These two holes face these two holes here. So make sure you just line the holes up facing that direction, because this can have any orientation you want it to if you don't have that notch. Well, our next step is we're going to take this groove here, we're going to put a little bit of gasket sealer inside this groove to make sure the slide stays in place. I'm using this product called Gasket Cinch. It's like this old school gasket sealer. You can see it's kind of like rubber cement slash contact cement. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my pick for this. I'm just going to get a little bit of my pick here. I'm going to paint it in this groove here. You can use a small screwdriver, something little. You can also use like an RTV type gasket sealer, but you have to be very light with it. I typically don't like it because it tends to blob up. There we go. So this stuff is somewhere between rubber cement and like weather stripping adhesive. It's kind of like that's what it smells like. And this just helps ensure that that diaphragm is sealed tight in this carburetor body. Working my way around. You can see it's almost like mucusy in a way. You can spread that around a little bit. Come on. Let's come out over here. The reason I like this stuff is because it goes on thin. It's not like silicone where you get a big blob of rubber break off. And if you have to remove it, it's easy to clean off with a little bit of like carburetor cleaner. It'll come out really easy. Alright, looks good. You can see it's all stringy and all the little strings will break off. Come on. Alright, I got my slide. I'm going to make sure that needle drops into the center of the hole there. Usually it'll drop in without a problem. Get the diaphragm up before it sticks. Come on. And my notch is, here's my notch. My notch is over here. I'm just going to put that diaphragm right down that groove just like that. To make sure it stays in place. Cool. Alright, so we got our spring for our diaphragm ready, and we have our top cap ready to go on, and I've also got my screws that hold the top cap on ready. I've gone ahead and greased them up with some anti-seize compound. I'm going to take a little bit more of this gasket cinch here. I'm going to put it on that top cap just along this perimeter here. So again, it helps seal the diaphragm in there as we are ready to put it on. Alright, that's all it needs, just a light coat. Alright, it's going to take 2 hands to do. Spring goes in, that. You got a top cap on, a little notch in the spring. I'm going to line it up so we can get that screw started in that corner there. I don't think so. The top cap is symmetrical, it can go on anyway, it doesn't have one way it fits. Alright, that's not going anywhere now. I like to come catty corner to it. Come on. There it goes. Up here, so that stuff can just wipe off really easy. Like I said, it's very mucusy. All right, that means the slide is in. We'll show you how to test to make sure the slide's working right here in a second. But we're going to finish up the carb. The last pieces to go on are going to be the idle mixture screw here and the vacuum port plug. Vacuum port plug. This guy here. Oh, come on. Just gonna put a drop of oil in the thread in there. Come on. Alright. And then our idle mixture screw. So we have that kind of fat O-ring there. It's going to go in this little groove of the mixture screw here. So I'll put that on real quick. Come on. Goes. Here's a pick to kind of work around the edge here. Yeah, we might use that in a second here. Come on. Just like that. Boom. My fingers are sticky from the gasket cinch. Alright. Same deal. I'm going to put a drop of oil on the threads and on the O-ring itself. Spring goes on here. Like I threads into here. I'm going to turn it until I feel this needle seat. There it goes. Not too hard. Alright, that's seated right there. From this position, like I said, not tight, it's just boom, I felt it stop. I'm going to back the screw out 2 full turns. So from here, so we're going to go 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2. That's going to be my starting idle mixture position for this carburetor. So that's it. The carburetor body is assembled. We're going to test the diaphragm real quick to make sure it's working right, and then we'll show you how to mount the 2 carburetors together on the base plate and do the bench sink. Okay, our carburetor's back together. What we're going to do is we're going to test to see if the diaphragm is working right. On the front of the carburetor here we have this kind of like kidney bean shaped ports on the 360 carburetor. This is where the air comes in to actuate the diaphragm. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to blow very gently into the port here, and you're going to hear the diaphragm and the slide hit it, like peak up and fall down. And you'll be able to see it from the back of the carburetor here. So, alright, so I'm going to gently blow into this little port here. You can hear that. It means the slide's working.